A decade after Avatar cemented its place in box office record books, director James Cameron is returning to the lost world of Pandora with The Way of the Water, which is already playing in China but opens across the west of the world today. Box office projections for North America say the film is poised to debut between 150 to 175 million from 4,100 North American theaters. As a sequel to the highest grossing movie in history, Avatar 2 has some pretty high expectations to clear. Lagos, Nigeria is also gearing up for Avatar 2 with the state-of-the-art IMAX theater in Lekki set to feature the film's latest 3D cinematic technology. The capacity theater is expected to be filled as Lagosians take a trip to the fantasy world of Pandora for the second time. The film is expected to debut at #1 in Nigeria with a range of expectations for its ticket revenue. Joining us to discuss further is Moses Babatope, co-founder, managing director at FilmOne Entertainment and Group Deputy Managing Director at Filmhouse Group. Moses, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. So we've put the projections for North America, 150, 175. What do you think it's going to open with here in Nigeria?
Just thanks for having me, and it's great to discuss box office again on Arise News. We're very, very excited about Avatar 2's release. This one is a hard one to call. We're 13 years since the first one. We barely had enough cinemas out there. We didn't have an IMAX, we didn't have a 3D. It's 3 hours, 10 minutes long. There are a number of factors. It's in the genre of sci-fi, fantasy, action, adventure. Really difficult. It's a mix of genres. The filmmaker is quite known, but a lot of the stars are not as probably known in this territory. So it's a tough one to call or estimate. But we're thinking in the region of 20 to 40 million for the opening weekend. We think this is going to play out for a long time because of the sheer quality and some of the great reviews coming in. And as you noticed, if you and I'm sure you'll have seen some of the news coming out on the Golden Globes nomination and Critics Awards. So this is really seen as a visual spectacle that we think a lot of people will talk about, and word of mouth is a big factor at the Nigerian box office. So we think the range is quite wide because we think it could open very strong on the first day, and we're in the festive season now. It could even be bigger. So 20 to 40 million is, in summary, what we're looking at the opening weekend.
All right, thanks for that. So when the first IMAX theater opened in Lagos, I think it was back in 2015, 2016, you picked the first Avatar film in 3D to debut the theater. Was that an obvious choice?
It was an obvious choice. It was, the Avatar 1 was the one that pioneered the 3D cinema technology 13 years ago. And that time, between 2016 and 2009, 7 years prior, it was just the obvious one to showcase the immersive experience that IMAX is. So it was for us to introduce, remember, this is the first IMAX auditorium in West Africa. So for us to introduce that premium format, we had to introduce the most suitable film for it. So it was great. It was 7 years on, it was still very well received. And yes, it was almost like a no-brainer to open such a landmark investment with such a great film.
All right, and yeah, I'm going to get to that landmark investment because it's expensive stuff. Will the IMAX theater in Lagos fully display the new visual 3D technology that's being talked about in the film?
One of the exciting things about our market, despite all the challenges that we face, is that we continue to challenge ourselves and find ways and resources, to bring the best experiences to our guests. And yes, indeed, the Avatar 2 Way of Water would be displayed, in IMAX 3D with all the visual technology on site for you to watch and experience. So yes, it would be in the best experience possible. The projectors are fully well calibrated. The sound, everything has been all remastered and worked out for what is going to be a truly phenomenal experience in this great season that we find ourselves.
And is there any need for the tech after a period of time to be upgraded? I don't know if you can talk about the tech behind the 3D screens. After a period, I don't know, it's been about 7 odd years or so now. Is there a need for an upgrade at some point? How does it work?
As you know, technology very, very moving very fast, like the speed of light, and the cinema sector is not being left out. As in 2009 it was 3D. We have 4D technology. Filmhouse has MX 4D. Our colleagues at Silverbird have 4DX. Our friends at Genesis also have the screen I've forgotten the name now, it's escaping my head. But yes, a number of premium formats have come up in the last few years. And in terms of like upgrading, yes, we work with our partners at IMAX to ensure that the latest technology, either through on-site installation or software upgrades, are done to ensure that the experience is not compromised. And the experience here is similar to what you get in New York or what you get in London, or what you get in Los Angeles.
Now, speaking of New York, London, Los Angeles, it's being said that for the 3D screens there, the premium 3D screens, ticket prices are going to be increased. Do you expect the bulk of the business here in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, to be at your IMAX screen compared to, because I understand that there are also 2D regular showings of the film?
Yes. So we expect the IMAX and particularly the premium formats, and the premium formats I just listed in answering your last question. That we expect the premium formats to have a real sizable contribution to the total box office for this film, and that's just because of the antecedent of the first one. The first one, as you know, was very much 3D heavy. And a lot of people that have followed Avatar and have followed the filmmaker is a revolutionary filmmaker. Literally, cameras were introduced, new cameras were introduced specifically for shooting this film. So we expect that between the IMAX, between the 4DX and the MX 4D, and ScreenX, which is owned by Genesis. Genesis have the partnership here. We expect to see a real contribution from those premium formats, and I think that it's so timely in terms of the evolution of our cinema going culture, where people now start seeing the value of this out of home experience, something you cannot get at home. So we expect that would have that impact on it. On a typical blockbuster film that has the IMAX format or premium format, we'll see anywhere between 10 and 20% of premium format contribution. IMAX can be anywhere between 8 to 10%. We expect a bit more in terms of contribution to the overall box office for Avatar 2.
All right, Moses, I want to ask you about this. As you said, this is the only IMAX screen in West Africa. Is there, and I know it's a pretty expensive piece of infrastructure here, are there plans for more, to open up more of the IMAXs either across West Africa or any other locations?
There are plans for more. As you know, it's been a tricky time, quite challenging time for cinemas in this part of the world. No thanks to the pandemic and various other economic challenges. But we're delighted to say FilmOne Group, owners of FilmOne Cinemas, we've invested and ready to roll out the next set of IMAXs. We had one, if not for the pandemic and the unfortunate incidents with the End Sars demonstrations, we had the second one at Circle Mall, which we're delighted to let people know, and almost like an Arise exclusive, to say we'll be opening that very soon. The Circle Mall is actually operational now. It opened a few days ago, but the IMAX there will be opening very, very soon. So please watch out for this place, for the space. We hope that it can also show some of the weeks coming up for Avatar 2. So yes, the second one is due to open imminently, and a few more are planned for the Nigerian and West African territory.
Excellent stuff. All right. Well, thank you for the exclusive there. So it's good to know. So in fact, you know what? That actually leads me now to this next question here. The costs, Moses. Can you reveal how much it costs to build one of these things?
Anyway, I don't want to scare investors away, but look, we're excited about this because we see like a great reaction by the great audiences we have in Nigeria to experiences like this. I'll just put it in a range that the IMAX, for example, cost over $1 million in 2016. The more we've been able to demonstrate that this proposition is not only one, in terms of experience, but in terms of generating returns, people have really reacted to it. The cinema in Lekki is the busiest cinema in West Africa, thanks to that, IMAX investment. And so we think that it's worth going for. And yes, we're pursuing it. As you know, it's not cheap. As I've also explained, the IMAX also in Lekki is one of the busiest IMAX theaters in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So again, we want people to know about this experience and about this format, and as they continue to run and it continues to perform, our plan is for us to roll it out across the country and indeed the region.
All right, Moses, we're going to take a quick break. I do want to talk to you a little more about what's going on in the cinema space. So please hang on. We're going to take a break and be right back to continue the conversation. It's the Global Business Report here on Horizon News. Do stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Global Business Report here on Horizon News. We still have Moses Babatope, co-founder, managing director at FilmOne Entertainment and group deputy managing director at Filmhouse. All right, Moses, I just wanted to have you please talk to us about your projections for 2022. How has 2022 performed for the Nigerian box office for in total versus 2021? Is the recovery still on or completed?
I'm really delighted to share with you, Rotus, that we're happy with the way the year has shaped out. It has not been without its challenges. We are making a recovery. I think the full recovery is not yet there, but we are making a recovery. We're about 8% up on 2019's numbers. We are, significantly up on last year's numbers, even on admissions and box office. 2019 is the benchmark. It's one of the record-breaking years for the sector globally and record-breaking year for our market. So we're on course to hit the 7 billion gross box office mark this year. The record was 6.4 billion. So we're on course to do that. We've already beaten it at the same period in 2019. So it's looking good in terms of box office. We are slightly down in terms of admissions. And like I said, for all the challenges raised at the beginning of the year, the Omicron was still very much rife. And then we've had all the various inflationary pressure challenges and, pressure on operating costs and disposable income and all that kind of stuff. But look, people are still choosing the cinema. And when I say challenge, we might not have as much of the resources the streamers have, but people are choosing the experience, and it bodes well. The local titles have also done very, very well for us in kind of diversifying our slate of films. And so we're not witnessing the kind of pressure other markets have, relying very much on Hollywood content. So we're grateful, really grateful for our wins. And hopeful that we will end the last 2 weeks, for example, is 10 to 12% of the year's box office. So we're hopeful that from today till the 31st, we'll have a superb ending to 2022 and can start 2023 strongly.
Right, optimistic notes to end the interview on. Moses Babatope, thank you so much for joining us. Co-founder, managing director at FilmOne Entertainment Group, deputy managing director at Filmhouse Group. Thanks for your time.